Today on IamCasa we're gonna discover a very special story. I already have 3 watches in front of me from someone who has a lot to share and to teach us all. It's the first time we're having him in Italy on camera and also for a small event. He will discuss with us a bit of his story, a bit of his creations, and of what's watchmaking for him and what's next, of course. And he's gonna join really soon to share the full story and some more of his watches right now on IamCasa.
Hi Andrea.
Hi Felipe.
How are
Great
you?
having you here. How was everything? Welcome to Italy.
Fine. I'm very happy to be here.
It's so good to have you. Trip was good. Everything.
Of course.
Right. How's Milano? Really sunny. It's a nice city to be. Huh?
It's not my first time, but it's lovely to be here.
But is it your first time for watches or?
First time for watches. The
Well,
other time was for
very
vacation.
pleased. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming and for telling your story. Of course, you're a watchmaker. You
Exactly.
create these beauties we have here in front. But a lot of people are familiar with your Instagram account because watches are beautiful and with a lot of beautiful pictures and videos. But I'm really curious. I tried to read a bit about you, but not too much because I want you to tell me. How did you start with watches in general?
In general, I started with watches as a child. I was loving watches, and then I was collecting is too much, but I had a watch, and then the second watch, and I was every time looking in the windows of the jewelers and was staring on the watches. I loved it, and when I was 13 years old,
Okay.
I saw in the TV a watchmaker. He was disassembling a movement, and that was the moment where I know, okay, I have to be a watchmaker because I ever loved mathematics, physics,
Okay.
Astronomy, and also working with my hands because I was helping my father who's working with wood and metal and such things, and I know I was at this moment it was clear I have to be a watchmaker because it's mathematics, physics, astronomy, and
also your hand.
craftsmanship. So
Wow.
it was my dream to be a watchmaker.
Very young. And did you try to disassemble watches when you're?
Yes, try is the right word. The first one was from my grandma.
Okay.
It was not working anymore. Then I had a screwdriver
Yeah.
and one pincet
Yeah.
to disassemble the watch and assemble and cleaning the watch. After the cleaning it was working, but now I know it was very unprofessional.
Yeah, but I mean that's a great start.
Exactly.
Wow. And you're still so young.
Yeah, now I'm 28 years old. In this time I was starting my apprenticeship in Glashutte at 2012, and after that, or in the apprenticeship, I went to Kodoke,
Okay.
who was my second master of watchmaking.
Wow.
He was trusting me so much to give me so many pieces to skeletonize, and it was perfect for me. I was working day and night.
Wow.
And yeah.
You started pretty strong then. Already doing a lot for a young guy. I mean.
Yes, I was just in love with watchmaking, and after Kodoke, I went to Rolf Lang. Do you know him?
Not really.
He's the father from Marco Lang,
Okay.
from Langentheine, and he was my third master, and there I learned how to make pieces.
Okay.
Not finishing, not skeletonizing, really how to make, for example, a gear
Okay.
just from a piece of metal, or a plate and a balance cock, such things. And that was and developing also. We was working on, in this time I was working for him at the Hammer Automatic to develop the mechanism. My part was to make the complication of the Hammer Automatic 1 millimeter thinner. This was his.
Wow. Wow, that's
yes.
not few. But did you already have in mind to start a brand, to build your own watches?
No,
or
no,
not
of
really?
course not. It was at Rolf Lang, I was happy. It was perfect for me. But he's living in a village which is smaller than La Cité. And La Cité is 2 streets.
No way.
More or less. It's
Wow.
Small streets on the sides, but it's 2 main streets. And
Yeah, a bit boring, I guess.
I am from Berlin, so that was not so perfect for me. I went back to Berlin and tried to make my first collection. And my first collection was inspired, of course, by Kodoke, by the skeleton work, because my first collection was 5 models of skeleton pieces, which was limited to 10 pieces each model.
In which year did it begin? Did everything begin?
Sorry?
In which year did you build the first skeletonized watches that were actually, they were already Felipe Pikullik, right? The brand,
Yes.
everything. Okay.
Yeah.
Which year was it?
It was the Festum. I have pictures in the internet from it, but yeah. Now
Was it 2000?
2017 I started to make my first watches.
Okay. Okay.
Before this, I was starting because I did one piece for my father, a unique piece
Of course.
with a spider on it, skeletonized, and this was my first piece. And then a friend went to me and said to me, "Okay, can you make a watch with a lion head?" And that was my maybe I can do my watches. And then I had a lot of time trying to do my watches. It was a hard time until before 2 years. And then with the Starry Sky model, I get some attention.
Well, yeah.
Maybe because it is the first one which shows my inspiration of watchmaking, the astronomy, the Starry Sky, and also where I want to go, what I want to do.
Yeah.
For example, the moon phase and the astronomical complications.
Yeah, that's the astronomy you said in the beginning.
Yeah.
But was your father as well into watches, loving watches? Or?
Nobody.
Okay.
Nobody in my family.
Cool.
No.
That's so cool. So, you started with the first skeletonized watch, and what was did the philosophy, because all of us saw a huge evolution in what you did. I met you through Marco, Swiss Watch Gang, shout out to Marco, back in the days, and since that moment, a lot changed. So, what is a watch for you, and what's your philosophy behind Felipe Pikullik?
Yeah. The main focus is on the craftsmanship, not on the finishing. The finishing is a big thing. I want to make it perfect. I try my best, and the goal is not to make just finishings. The next steps, like my first step, is to make my own pieces, everything handmade, and my goal is to make it also in the future, not to change the philosophy. We want to develop more and more difficult things and more complicated things to build everything, which is the first one is the moon phase, where you have the first parts handmade. For example, the moon, the plate for the moon, and also the gears. And there I tried to, I was developing the watch 2 years, not because it is so complicated to make a moon phase. The reason why I was working 2 years on this project is because I did for example, the mechanism for the moon that it turns 5, 6, 7 times. in different techniques of watchmaking
Okay.
that I learned from the books, which I collected from the years,
Wow.
and to reach the best results and to learn why does what work better
Sure.
or not, and on which material. Yeah, and that was the goal for the first watch.
And this came out. You told me you wanted just hair to move the whole thing.
Just air,
Yes.
to brush a little bit of air to the mechanism that it turns, and I reached that goal after some times to make the same thing in different ways, but now we have the quality that I wanted to reach, and yeah,
Amazing.
that's the result and the first step into the deeper watchmaking.
And it's full of details. This watch is full of. I mean, I see all the numerals in the it's almost a chemin de fer, the minutes around, but applied. It's very, very full of details. So, is your inspiration from your masters, or like how do you get to create one watch in your mind?
It depends from the model.
Okay.
If you speak from the moon phase, the front side, the design of the front side was just coming with the time. I just began to sketch something, and then I thought about how to finish it, and I thought the best way is to finish the front side of the moon phase in this way that you have every technique on the front side, and if you look at the details, you have it. You have the frosting base from the dial, and the base is a little bit skeletonized. So you have skeletonizing on the dial, but you have also a chaptering. So this chaptering is made of steel, which is black polish, also a technique.
True.
Then you have the beveling on the opening from the dial, and also some gears which are handmade, and the moon which is turned by hand also.
Wow.
So
which metal is the moon?
the moon is
What did
made
you
of
use?
brass also,
Okay.
and rhodium plated. Black rhodium from the back side and white rhodium from the front side.
So good.
And the hands is inspired by Jaeger-LeCoultre, because I think this is the most beautiful finish of hands, half frosted and polished.
Yes,
Right?
very cool. Is the first time you used it finishing on hands?
No.
Or okay?
Not the first time. I used it on some unique pieces at the beginning, and now I decided for this model to use this hands, because for me it's the best.
Yeah.
way.
Very beautiful. It's very beautiful. Yeah. So now, what you? I mean, this is my favorite piece of the three you brought for sure.
Really?
Yeah, man. Because it's. I mean, no, not really, because this one is more interesting, but this one is so charming. But with this one, we can see everything. Which year is it from? Is it recent, or it's one of the first ones?
This is the skeleton model from 2022.
Okay.
After my first collection of skeletonized watches, I decided to make every year a new model of skeletonized watches.
Okay.
This one is from 2022. It is a hand-winded watch with only time function and skeletonized, of course, which is every year, limited to 5 pieces. This one is already sold out, and this year, 2023, is the next model. And this model will be a chronograph in platinum case.
Wow.
And smaller, because there are a lot of people who want a smaller watch, but also limited to 5 pieces.
Wow, and also skeletonized, of course.
Yes,
of
it's
course.
the FPSK is the name of this type model. Is Felipe Pikullik skeleton.
Wow, so cool, thank you. And how big is it then? Because you told me you're
This
gonna have
one is 41 millimeter.
Okay, but where's pretty good, I have to say.
Yeah, the locks go down, so.
Yeah. And how, I mean, was it, you told me it was pretty hard and you started alone doing the first watches, right?
Yeah.
All alone. And now how did it grow?
grow very quickly. In the last year, I was before at 2018.
Okay.
I had my first student, and
Wow.
we was working together. It was hard, but he was very loyal. Every time on my side and learning. His name is Martin, and I'm very proud of him because he was staying with me in this time where nobody was looking at me. But now he's still at my workshop, and he's one of the best. And I have now getting last year 7 more people. Now we are 8 people together.
Wow.
And this happened last year.
Everyone in Berlin.
Yes, in my workshop. The workshop is too small now. We are everybody side on side. Now we are moving on another workshop to make it a little bit bigger.
Wow, congrats.
Thank
Congrats
you
and good luck, because always moving. I mean, I can imagine with all the watches, with all the parts and all the people, it's gonna be a mess. So, I mean, it's very interesting what you told me, because I thought you were focused on the aesthetical part more than on the technical part, as long as the technique was great. But now meeting you and talking, it's really visible that you care a lot about mechanics, even more than aesthetics, and just it's something to pair. So how did you came up with the Aventurine, which is the most aesthetic thing
the
ever?
Aventurine, normally we had to speak before about this watch, but now I can talk. It is the introduction watch, maybe, because it was before the moon phase.
Okay, yes.
The model, and it was. I choose this design to express my vision of the future. It have the Starry Sky dial, which is connected to the astronomical philosophy, which I show on the moon phase and on the future models which will come.
And so you started, I mean, I remember when I met Marco with your watch, the prices were very different from now, right? You did start with how much for one, like, more or less simple watch?
This one was 4,800, but it was with another movement.
Yeah, that's important.
Shape
That's very
of
important.
the movement was different. It was the half of the beveling, and
I imagine.
the dial is different also. It was a lacquered dial. Now you have the Aventurine dial, and the handmade strap and the bag, which is also handmade.
Which is very cool, huh?
So
very cool.
it was the subscription time more or less, and now it is possible to put all the effort I wanted to put on the watch, because now the people can see what we are putting into the work.
Very much.
Right?
And how much is it today?
This one costs 12,000 without VAT.
And you're sold out, right? Like more or less.
More or less.
More or
it's
less.
possible to get watches,
But it's very cool. It's very cool, nevertheless. I mean, and when did you decide to change the movement? What, I mean, I know you want to express yourself, and that's great, but what changed the thing? Like, did you find a perfect one to...
It doesn't change. It was in my mind, but it wasn't possible for this price, right?
Okay.
So I had to be a little bit more cheaper to show my work, and now I can show what was in my mind.
Yeah, it paid off.
I have more. It's in work.
Wow. Can you tell us something or nothing for the moment? You already told us the new skeletonized model, so...
There's more, but you will see in the future.
Okay, so where do you see the company? Because it's important to have, I mean, it's something to have the name on the watch and be proud of it, and it's very cool. Where do you see the company in, I don't know, 3-4 years? Because market evolved a lot.
Of course. I'm looking a little bit more to the future.
Okay.
The first part now is to make the people strong who are in my workshop. And that's also one reason of the moon phase. It is a complicated watch. It has some parts handmade. The complete complication is handmade, so the people can learn how to make the parts by hand, and so that it is not so many parts, I can teach them with the attention that they need to make the watches perfectly. So this is the first step, to make them strong, and then I want more students, of course.
Wow.
And they need to teach them, and I want to control that also.
Sure.
And that we keep the quality, and so we will develop more complicated watches, so that I have the time. That is the mission, the first mission, and hopefully at the 50s we had a school in Berlin, a watchmaker school.
And you want it back?
I want it back. That's one of my goals.
Cool.
I want to.
So
I
cool.
want to bring the watchmaker school of Berlin back, and hopefully in 5 to 10 years we can reach this goal.
Well, you started alone, and then it's 8 people. So I think the scheme is good, to be honest. So interesting. But I'm really curious. What's your Because I can't imagine, because you're both making the watches, creating and thinking them, and teaching people. I mean, that's a tough day, I think. That's a long one. What do you do in a day? Like, what's your life about? Because it's very interesting. You don't just make watches, it's a lot more.
At the first years, I was just working on the watches. That was my life. I was losing so many friends.
Can imagine.
Or seeing who are my friends, and a lot of people doesn't understood me, because I had the chance to work for other companies, and they said, "Why do you don't work for them? Why do you choose your way?" But I think now everybody understands what I wanted to reach, and I'm happy with it, because I'm seeing other people who had this dream which I have, and they can work with me on this dream. The 8 people who I have now, we are, everybody is passionate, and we want just to work. It's our life, and
you told me
that's
also
nice to see that there are people who had the same idea, but now they have the possibility to make this.
So are you happier about the watches or about the people? It's
both.
hard. It's hard to choose.
But more about the people. It's nice to work with them, and to learn every day more and more. Also, how to work with people. Usually I'm just a watchmaker, but now I have to manage everything also, and
it's very
interesting, and
in fact
very nice to see learning them. And also sometimes they have ideas which I never had, so together we are very stronger, and that's what I want to keep in the future, that we all are on the same more or less position, right?
That's very interesting.
As a watchmaker.
Aren't you afraid some of them could just go and create their own thing?
If anyone goes, it's his right, because if he has some ideas that I don't want to make, it's his right to impress his ideas. It's the same that I did. I had my masters, and I'm very I have so much respect, and
for them.
They are one of the best watchmakers in the world, and I'm just thankful, and I hope they understand that I want to express my vision and to make my watches. And if anyone goes and make his watches, I help them.
Okay.
It's
Wow.
necessary.
You're so good-hearted, man. Wow. And what's your relationship with unique pieces? Because you created a lot of them. Weren't you afraid? Because a lot of brands are really like skeptical about it, but I think it's a cool thing to do.
It was a goal from me to make just unique pieces. It was a goal.
Okay.
It was a romantic dream, but the reality is that a unique piece, if you make one unique piece, you have no problem. Okay, you make this watch finished. But if you have 10 orders of unique pieces, or 20, or 50
It's a lot
unique
of
pieces, it's very different to make 50 pieces, which is one model. So one model, 50 pieces, or 50 unique pieces, because I have to make every time a new design and to communicate with the customer if it's right.
And also to teach to the students, it's harder.
Of course, that's
with,
impossible.
Yeah.
I saw that it is impossible to make with my students a unique piece, because I have to do it, because it's the first one. It's like a prototype. So how can I say make
Very
this
true.
what is in my mind? So now we are going to make some series, like the moon phase, which is 20 limited, limited to 20 pieces. The starry sky is not limited, and the limited pieces of the skeleton models and future models. We want to make it possible to make some unique pieces.
Okay.
But in the future it will be very, very rare.
Okay, true.
Because it's so hard.
Will be unique pieces of the moon phase?
No, the moon phase is
only
not,
yes.
Because the moon phase is a very it's not for the company, for me, it's not just a watch. It is our first step into the goal where we want to reach. So you can't change this. It's original.
Okay.
It have to be original.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. I don't ask you what's next because I don't think you can tell me, and you already discussed a lot of it. And I mean, I'm just appreciating the watches because it's really something, and we can really see the work both on the movement and on the overall aesthetic, which I didn't think it was that much Saxonian, to be honest, because it's not Baroque at all, but there are a lot of elements and details that could be,
of course,
that could be visible.
I am from my apprenticeship was in Glassette, and to be honest, I didn't see the Saxonia before my watch, but I saw it, and maybe it's a connection that I doesn't regressed it.
Yeah. And what's your relationship with Italy in the end?
Italy?
Many customers or not still?
We have customers in Italy, and not so much, but it's nice to have them.
Yeah, sure.
And I hope we can work more with Italian people, because maybe I come to deliver the watches because I love Italy. So I can drink an espresso to deliver the watch. No, but
it's very good.
Yeah.
No, because a lot of people tell the taste is different, and it's a lot of trend setting and stuff. But for once, and I think you were helped a lot because now you're very known and very present on social media, which is not really easy for. I mean, you're both an individual and a brand, and it's not easy to be a small company and that much appreciated and known. So was it something you had in mind as well, to be on social media, or just randomly happened?
It was just an option to show my watches. It was my only option. I had no jewelers who wanted to sell my watches, so I started with Instagram and just showed what I'm doing, not just the watch, also the work, what we are doing until today. That's the most important thing for me. maybe we reach also some watchmaker students who have some questions, and he see it in our videos, and that's maybe the most important thing.
Yeah, you're very ahead of people with all these ideas. Huh?
Yeah,
it's a lot.
It was a lot of things was difficult to learn, and maybe because of that I want to make it easier.
Which is a great thing. Well, it's a lot of work, and I'm really happy you came, because now I know a lot more, because I saw the watches, I found them really beautiful, but I was like, yeah, it's a really well made watch, it's a great watch, but I didn't know the full story. And if, like, from this conversation I can see that you don't do it for the watch, you don't do it for the brand, you do it for the future of people, and that's a lot, man.
I do it also for me, that I can work on the watches. I love to work on the watches.
Yeah, but I think that's the key of it all. You do it for pleasure and for passion, which is a lot. Well, thank you so much. I will be looking at the watches as well, because I mean you have a lot to show, and maybe one day I will also have one, hopefully, if work goes well. And thanks for sharing a bit of your story.
Of course. And
it was a real pleasure. And now we're gonna see some collectors and some people to see if we can have more coffees and more deliveries. No, but it's great. Yeah, but it's great to share the stories, and congrats on your work, man. It's really a lot, and
thank you very much.
I mean, and good luck as well with it. Thank you so much for everything, and well, guys, let us know which one of the 3 watches we've shown is your favorite, and
Moonface.
Yeah, well, it's important. It's important.
If not, ciao.
And share some love. See you next video.